Said that a good conversation is medicine for the soul. And that's exactly what we bring you here on the Natalie Fort Show, conversations that matter with iconic personalities. My guest tonight, well, her name is often heard when discussions on Ghanaian businesswomen, entrepreneurs, and highly achieving women are had. But beyond being the CEO of leading communications firm Stratcomm Africa, and the wife of one of Ghana's astute lawyers, Chachu Chikata, who is Esther Cobbah. Well, I'm honored to have her sit with me tonight on the show as she gives us a closer look at who the woman behind it all is. Esther Cobbah, welcome to the Natalie
Thank you,
Fort
Natalie.
Show. It's so good to have you.
Good to be here.
And now, on the show, we ask our famous question, our first question, and that's, as we speak, what's the state of Esther's life?
As we speak, Esther is really blessed. Having had the opportunity for many years to deploy the talents that God gave her, I love communication and I've had the opportunity to practice that. But the most pleasing state of my life now is my 5 grandchildren.
5 grandchildren.
Yes,
Esther,
yes,
look at
yes.
Congratulations.
Yes. And they continue to just let me be amazed at the work of God and what life is about and the innocence of the child and why Jesus Christ kept telling us we should have faith
like children.
And I feel blessed to have them.
And to see that.
Yes.
To be healthy and to be in a good
Oh,
state.
yeah. They keep me running. They keep me, yes. And I keep reminding them that I'm a working grandmother. So sometimes they actually go to work with me. I almost brought one of them here. But
How old is the eldest?
The eldest is 5. He'll be 6 soon. And the youngest is about 4 months.
Wow.
Yes.
You are blessed.
Very blessed.
Yeah. You certainly are blessed. Is this what you envisioned years ago for yourself?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep. But I kept asking God to, lead me where He wants me to be.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is where He wants me to be at this time. There are challenges, but thank God He gives us the wisdom and talents to try and turn the challenges into opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was growing up like for you?
Growing up was beautiful. It was really beautiful because a lot of my growing up years was with my mother, an amazing woman who was multi-talented, did so many things. I mean...
What were some of the things she did?
We sold at Mankasi Market together.
Wow. Together?
We baked bread together, we crocheted, we knitted, we did garkinke together, smoked fish together.
And you enjoyed those experiences?
I wouldn't change a thing. We did alewa toffee, milk toffee. You don't know alewa toffee. I mean, we did everything together.
Were you her only girl or only child?
2 girls. My big sister and myself, and then 3 boys. But my brother's cook. She involved us in everything that she did, and she was such a loving mother. And she allowed us to give expression to who we each were. Yeah. And one of the things that she used to do that I loved so much was, we lived in we grew up in Secondary and Commander. And of course Salt Pond, Yindi, Navrongo, Bolga. My father was a postmaster, so we kept
you moved around
traveling around. Yeah. But on Saturday evenings in Secondary, there was what is called a concert party now, called Kakeku. And she would take us to go and watch them. And then the following day, Sunday, we would take up different characters in what we
watched. And acted at home.
Yeah, and acted at home according to who we were.
Yeah.
And so it was really nice growing up in a very simple home, but very loving.
Yeah.
And I feel blessed by that because, I mean, I know that sometimes there's sibling issues and all that.
It doesn't exist
somehow,
in your home?
Sometimes I feel it's abnormal.
Yeah.
My siblings and
you all get along.
We do. I mean, there are sometimes issues, but we talk through them. They're not like big
problems that affect your relationship.
So we actually put on our mother's tombstone, the love that you sowed in us lives on. And she died when I was 11 years. So you can imagine.
Your mother died when you were 11, and you talk about her as though she may even still be alive. It was such presence.
She's still present with me. She's still alive. And it's amazing. My brothers are over 70. I mean, one of them turns 70 next month. And each time we meet, my sister, all of us, we talk about my mother. So she's present with us.
Yeah.
If she was alive, she would have been 100 already.
Wow.
Yeah, but she died when
But I think it's quite significant to think she passed when you were 11, and you really do talk about her as though with such presence.
Because
and she made a very huge impact.
She was really a part of us. I mean, I told you, each of my brothers cook. When one of my brothers comes to my house, he say, "Mama, you're tired, let me do the cooking." And because we were a part of her, and she was a part of us. Even
what was it like when she passed, when you were 11 and that day she left?
She had taken me to Mofretro in Kumasi on a Friday. And then the following Monday, my uncles came for me from school, and I thought that she needed me to come home and get some things for her. And it was when we got to Commander Junction that I saw that a lot of her friends from Sekondi and all that were in black. So I asked who had died. I thought it was an old grand uncle of mine who had probably passed. And they told me it was her.
Wow.
She passed in a car accident. So I felt that my world came crashing around me. It was really difficult. It was really, really, really difficult. But that time I was in Mofretro, and I guess that's when I became very, very close to God. She brought us up, praying
and the Lord
most of the time. And I looked around me, and what I could find was my God.
Yeah.
And I found solace in prayer. I found going to God and sharing how I felt. And she sang, and I also sang. And so prayer and song and fellowship, which was something where all things that she put us into were things that, I found solace in. And then I found friends who, up till today, have been part of my life because they knew what I was going through.
How did it change the dynamics in your home after she, a pillar of the home, passed?
I had to go and live with my grandmother for a while, and then my aunt, who was in Accra. So I moved here, but I went to my grandmother for a few years. Then, of course, came to my aunt, and it changed the dynamics because, of course, you're living with your mother, she passes, but then there was quite a bit of, quite an amount of love around us, and she had trained us to be strong. So I then determined that I would try and be who I knew she wanted me to be.
Someone she'd be proud of.
Yes, hardworking and honest and God-fearing and loving.
Yeah.
These are things that I knew my mother would be proud of. So I aspired to be that and allow that to shape my life.
Beautiful. And I like that you talk about the values. I mean, everything that she seemed to instill in you wasn't, say, become a lawyer or she didn't have those things in mind. It was just about getting the internal values that would help you succeed wherever, right?
Yes.
So as a child, what were your dreams and ambitions?
You know, we used to travel from Sakandi to Komenda a lot. And each time I would look at the little villages in between Sakandi and Komenda, and I'd ask my mother, what would it take for those villages to be like Sakandi? Or even, you know, parts of Komenda. Because at that time, Komenda wasn't that much developed, even though the sugar factory was there and all that. And we used to have conversations about this. And I purposed in my heart that when I grow up, I want to do something that would transform lives of people in our rural communities and all that. Even though, I mean, I enjoyed my life in Komenda a lot, fetching water from the well, from the spring and all that. And so my aspiration was to study something that I could use to help people.
Particularly the less privileged people.
Yes, particularly less privileged people. And I also like understanding among people. So I wanted to study something because I saw my mother mediating a lot, and she herself also showing a lot of love to people. So I wanted something that would enable me to generate love in society. And when I went to school, I found myself interested in subjects that dealt with people, English literature. So I could analyze people's characters, you know, character sketch and those kinds of things. History. How did people evolve? I did ancient history. I did modern history, African history, European history. Why did people go to war?
What led them to that point?
What led them to that point? And I remember I used to like the immediate and remote causes of wars and things like that. And for me at that time, they were not just subjects. They were things that were speaking to me. And then I did the study of religions. How do beliefs drive people to do things? And I found my home in communications, because there I could apply all these. And so that's how come I studied communication for developing nations and cross-cultural communication and organizational communication, because then I could use all these to work with people to adopt innovation, not because the innovations are being forced on them, but because they themselves see the value in the innovation.
And people from diverse backgrounds.
So I get upset, I get offended when people say they are change agents going to rural communities to go and get them to change. Who are you? I mean, they know how to survive
on their own.
If there are other options that they can consider, you interact with them until they see the value, and that is more sustainable. And then also just, you know, bringing understanding and helping companies to sell more, because I work with their audiences to understand how the products benefit them, not just because they're products for sale, and how companies can understand and respect the needs of their audiences. So that is, so your question was, what was my aspiration? It was a child childhood desire that over
for
time.
Harmony, communication, love.
Harmony, a better life for all. And happiness.
And was inspired by your mother, you say.
Yes.
And so at what point was Stratcomm birthed?
When I had my second child, throughout the period that I was having my children, I was either in school, I was doing my master's, or at home, looking for a job.
Looking for a job?
Yes.
Wow.
And during that time, I would look around me and see situations like filth, like read the newspapers and find that we don't have a strong enough savings culture, different
and these
things.
Worried you? These concerned
They worried me.
Yeah.
And so I started writing proposals. How can communication be a tool for addressing these? In a short time, I had over 13 of them, and I kept them. And then I found a job. And so there was this thing burning in me all the time, because I kept on saying, why do people go to have children and they die and the children die? And I find that maybe maternal health was not...
So societal issues bothered you, you know, they deeply concerned you, social issues, yes.
And then I see companies advertising, and I look at the advertisement and what they are selling.
And it's not effective. And it bothers you. Yeah.
And then there are government issues where budgets are read, they're not understood.
Yes.
All kinds of things. They bother me.
Yeah.
I think those are not the things that bother me.
They're definitely not the things that bother quite a number of people.
They used to keep me awake.
Wow.
And I would wake up in the night and
write
write
on them,
write things as to how communication can be
solve these.
So, and I kept them. And
you still have them?
Yes, I still have them. I still have all of them.
Wow.
And
so you said you got a job?
So I got a job and put that on hold. And over time, I got introduced to young people with no jobs. And I thought, but I can teach them communication and they can implement all these things. So
just briefly, what was that job and what was that experience like? For how long?
The job was, I got a job with Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, and as the first public affairs officer at that time, and I worked my way up. And it was exciting because there also I was able to combine working on corporate communication, internal communication, helping the staff to appreciate that the resources that we're managing are for Ghanaians, and they need to know what we are doing with the resources.
Accountability.
Accountability. And also working towards a vision. GNPC had a mandate, so there was internal communication. I remember I had quarterly seminars for staff to understand what needed to be, what we were set up to do. Then of course we needed to explain to Ghanaians why we were spending time looking for oil. And that wasn't easy.
That would not be that would be a challenge.
People didn't believe that we had oil. Now we're enjoying it. And then of course we also had to position and pitch Ghana and GNPC in a manner that would attract foreign investment, because the country by itself didn't have all the investments required. And so at that time, for instance, every year I led the organization of the Oil and Gas Africa conferences. And a lot of the oil companies that initially worked in Ghana's oil petroleum sector came in through those conferences. And even some West African countries got interest from these people. And then it was from there that Shell and Chevron identified me and selected me to be the first external affairs manager for the West African gas pipeline project, now WAPCO. But before all this, I had done some 6 months internship with U.S. Information Service, and from there to GHOne. Do you know GHOne?
GHOne?
It's not just the distilleries.
Okay, please tell me what else it is, because I know it's as a distillery.
It's a holding company of all the factories, manufacturing entities that our first president set up. There were about 26 of them, and 2 were added eventually. So we had GHOne distilleries, we had leather works, we had the corned beef manufacturing company, meat factory, tomato factory, steel works, oil, Abosu glass factory. We had also, I was the public relations person at the GHOne head office for that. The GHOne head office was opposite what is FAO now. But so it was from there that I went and did my master's, and it was after that I was looking for a job. And in between I dreamt about all these things. So then I got young people who had finished school and didn't have jobs,
were unemployed,
and
trained them to do that.
Yes, so it was a social enterprise called Center for Development and Intercultural Communication. This tells you I had just finished my master's. And I was still very academic.
Sounds like a paper.
So that's how Stratcomm Africa started. So it was the young people, and I used to train them free of charge and get them to try and think through communication issues and all that. So when eventually I left GNPC and the West African Gas Pipeline Project, I picked up and registered, Stratcomm Africa, sort of, and made SEDIC an NGO
under Stratcomm.
Under Stratcomm Africa. So I was every Wednesday, for instance, going to Nima, Mamubi, and Newtown to work with young people there. So I would train them in how to facilitate change and things in their own environment.
Were they receptive?
They were very receptive. I introduced them to puppetry and all that. It was very nice.
That's so exciting.
And I still want to do more.
You do. You do. Has Stratcomm, the growth of Stratcomm, has it met your expectations?
Oh yes. Stratcomm Africa is 29 years this year. By God's grace, we'll be 30 next year. We ask for His grace to keep us. There have been up and downs, but we remain Ghana's premier. So we thank God. I'm proud of the number of people that Stratcomm Africa has trained over the years. There have been challenges, but we look back with joy and with gratitude to God to what He has done.
I mean, at the beginning you did say the challenges, the opportunities. Right?
The opportunities.
That's the golden
challenges
moment in each thing. There are opportunities and all challenges.
Challenges are opportunities. That's why, the good old book says, in all things we give thanks. Because you look at the bad thing and you learn from it. And my staff at Stratcomm Africa will tell you, I always say, a mistake or a challenge is a resource, depending on what you choose to use it for. So it's been, we've had our highs, we've had our lows, but we still, it's been.
And I'm sure you made your mom proud.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure you have.
I hope so. And I'm really proud of the young people currently in Stratcomm Africa, being led by Kofi, who is the business development director, and Sharon, the head of communications, and of course Kwame, who looks after operations. Young people, and they're making my work and life easy.
Beautiful. Now, Esther, we're going to talk a bit more about Stratcomm, but delve a lot deeper into who Esther is, even beyond Stratcomm and communications. Stay with us here on the Natalie Fort Show. You're welcome back to the Natalie Fort Show. Now, it's made possible through the support of MTN, Absa Bank Ghana, Taft College, and the Club G100, Self-Search, and Weller Dazzles. I've been in conversation with Esther Cobbah, CEO of Stratcomm Africa, mother, wife, grandmother. So Esther, we've delved into Stratcomm and your communications journey. Now let's talk a bit more about the other side of Esther. Yes. Now, when people refer to Esther Cobbah, many think Stratcomm. A few, I guess, think the wife of Chachu Chiketa, one of the most notable lawyers in Ghana. What's that like? I mean, it may be just normal to you. He's your husband. But what's that like?
It's normal.
It's normal.
He's a man, and I really don't know. It's normal. It's normal. It's only when people misunderstand him, and I know the man, and I'm thinking, he's a very simple person. I mean, clearly gifted, and he doesn't take his God-given gifts lightly at all. He doesn't see himself as legal luminary and, those descriptions.
It's just him, just working.
Just him. Yeah. I don't think I'd be married to him if he wasn't a man to be married to, but he was something else. Yeah. So
you just see the man. You're not seeing the astute lawyer per se. It's the man. Yes?
No, if I saw an astute lawyer, then it means I'd be in a courtroom in my home.
Yeah.
And that
would not work.
Would not work.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah. I like the fact that you see the man. Because of course he is your husband.
Loving man.
Yes, and that's what you should see. Yes? But all of us see one of Ghana's legal luminaries. Now, do people address you as the wife of Chachu Chiketa? Have you gotten that?
Some, but it's really not many.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been quite surprised. I mean, not surprised, but I go to places, and when I've finished doing what I have to do, somebody will come and say, "Oh, and I just found out that you're married to so and so." And I say, "Oh yeah, he's my husband," and I move on.
Yeah.
He doesn't define me. God has defined me.
He doesn't define you.
No. And in fact, if he defined me for the kind of man he is, I don't think I'd be married to him.
Yeah.
He's happy with who I am, and he allows me to be.
Yeah.
And that really makes the marriage really exciting and makes it work because I'm who I am. And
he doesn't define you. I think that just says it all. Esther is Esther, right? Yeah. So what attracted you to him? How did it all begin for you, and what attracted you?
His honesty and hard work, and I don't know how to describe it, but Chachu has a certain deep love for his country and the development of his country. And he also believes in human rights, and it's almost like an obsession.
Would you say it's like your obsession? I mean, you are so obsessed about filth and to write about 13 papers on it. Do you share that?
We share that. We share that, and that attracts me to him. And he really does it just because he doesn't want anything. And his love for God. I mean, he's a simple person, for me, very truthful, because I feel that if you're with somebody who's honest. Then getting into trouble is not.
It's true.
So that's how he is. Very loving, very caring, and cares about everybody else.
Humanity and
yes,
all.
and sometimes I have to remind him, Chachi, you have to take care of yourself too. That's how he is, a very selfless person, and that's what attracted you to him. As for the love story, one day you'll do a movie that will
be fun.
You'll
give me exclusive rights.
I'll give you the exclusive.
Thank you. You heard. Thank you. So I mean, I do see you talking about his selfless nature. Somehow that clicks to me as some characteristics of your mother.
Yes.
I might. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. In fact, at some point, you know, I was senior prefect at Wesley Girls. So at some point, I went back there and instituted a prize in her name, and it was called the Victoria Cobbah Prize for Selfless Service.
Wow. Aww.
So she really
amazing.
Put that in all of us, and that's probably why I saw that in
him.
Yeah,
I'm sure that is why. Now, you mentioned, of course, you don't see him as Chachu Chikat, a notable lawyer. He's him, right?
Yes. But and I respect his
work,
intellect and his work, because, and you see, I think that his honesty shows through his work as well. Yeah. When he's doing something, and that is something that I believe in. Yeah. I mean, everybody who's been through Stratcomm Africa knows that we say we work to the glory of God. You take work, you have to do it properly. Yeah. And that is what my mother taught me. You know, she used to sing this song around the Independence Day. Inya hauni mia onyi menye medzi. Wombu mozino ni jumayet. At that time, it was a song encouraging Ghanaians to be hardworking. A lazy person only waits to be fed. You see, and so I like how he
approaches work.
Yes, how he approaches work and how he does, you know. So I guess
that attracted you to him.
That makes me happy with him.
Happy. Now, what have been some of the difficult moments being married to such a notable personality?
Oh, at first it was difficult to reconcile who you know as this individual being accused of things that you knew he hadn't done. But I always said, look, God knows the heart of man, so God will in the end vindicate. And he went through 15 years of a lawsuit, you know, being in court. He was in prison, and all that. I visited him every day until he came out, and eventually he was acquitted. He was vindicated. And that, for me, it was difficult, but through the journey, especially the prison journey, that, how do I say that? It was difficult, but it was spiritually fulfilling. Wow. Because that was a period in which I prayed a lot. And those who remember will know that I used to do the monthly praise vigils. Because after I prayed and asked God to let us know whether he was innocent or not, and I said, Lord, if he's innocent, I know that you can turn this 5-year sentence into 5 months or 5 weeks or 5 days.
That was your prayer?
That was my prayer. And I decided I'm not going to ask God to free Chachu. I'm going to praise him because I believe that he has done it. And he came out of prison with that asthma attack 2 days before the 5th month.
The 5th month. Wow.
So that's why I say it was difficult.
But it was spiritually fulfilling.
It was spiritually fulfilling. So when I look at that period, I do not focus on the imprisonment, having to send food daily to in Nsawam prison and all. I look at the things that God did for me during that period.
How it shifted your perspective, built your faith?
Built my faith and made my perspective in that God was using that for something. And not only for us, because even the other 11 people in the cell where he found himself, I remember 2 weeks before he came out at the praise vigil, the preacher who preached said he used the when there was a storm on the sea where they were traveling with Jesus, and he stilled the storm. And this preacher said, you know what, there must have been other boats in the vicinity of where their boat was. And all those boats benefited from the calming of the... So he knew that once God stills the storm, others would benefit. He helped those 11 young people, including, I think, a 16-year-old who had no business being in prison. So the 11 people in the cell with him benefited eventually, because they told him his story, and he himself says that that was another university for him, because some of the stories of the people in jail that he heard, he had never treated in law school. And he found a way of helping them. And, you know, he got his asthma attack was so bad because the inhaler that I had given him, he had given to somebody else.
That's what caused the asthma attack.
He gave out the inhaler, which he was supposed to use to prevent it. He said the previous day somebody else had an attack and didn't have an inhaler. So he gave his inhaler to that person. But that meant that when he had his attack, he didn't have. And throughout the night, I mean, it was bad. By the time I saw him in Nsawam prison, in Nsawam hospital, he wasn't talking.
He wasn't talking.
He wasn't talking.
At that moment, did you link the events to as a possible answer of prayer? I mean, what happened internally at that moment? Oh,
yes. I mean, this, your movie. You know, 2 weeks before that, I had been praying, and I'm a simple prayer person. I don't, I just speak to God, because otherwise he has to be a simple God for me, a simple person, to be able to relate to him. So in the night I was praying, and me, I don't hear voices, none of those things. But this time I heard clearly, whether in my mind or in the room, you will bring him home. So I turned on the light and I looked around, and there was nobody in the room. Well, 2 weeks later, I go to him on a Saturday, and he had a cold, but I had to go for a meeting at church, so I left and I went. Tried to send him medication. Of course, it wouldn't be allowed. It was against the rules. So on Sunday, I went to see him, and I find that he wasn't there. They took a long time bringing him out. As Sundays, I was given only 5 minutes, and he wasn't coming. So they eventually came and told me that he had had a very bad asthma attack and had been taken to the Nsawam hospital. So I moved there, and you can imagine, I was running when the director at the prison at that time, may his soul rest in peace, came towards me and said to me in Fanti, Machraba Fanuko. You remember I had prayed, and what I heard was, you will
bring him home.
Yes. Yeah. And what I haven't said is, when I got that message, the following day when I went to the prison, I actually said, Chachu, exercise faith. Pack your things and let's go. This is not your place. And he said, I can't go. It will be against the law. I said, let's go. Of course, he couldn't leave the prison.
Of course, yeah, not that way. Yeah.
Here was I being asked, take him away.
Yeah.
And I remember when I told him in prison that he should let me take you to, he said, oh, we're working on some legal thing. I said, God didn't tell me that.
Legal things will be required.
And he came out, went to the hospital, and then they had to bring him to 37.
Yeah.
And at 37, they did their best, but they realized that he had to be moved to Kolebu. And all that time, I kept on praying.
Yeah.
All I said was, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Because at that time, you can't find the words.
Yeah.
You can't. I prayed until we took him to Kolebu. And for 5 days, he didn't sleep. He couldn't talk. He couldn't eat. He was just he couldn't breathe, basically. It was critical. But God's purpose for him was different.
Was different, and it was fulfilled. He came home.
He came home
through a challenge.
So it was difficult.
Yeah.
But God turned it into something good. So
that's quite a story. I can't wait for my movie, but that's quite a story. So just to give a bit of context, that was in 2008 under Kufuor's regime when he was incarcerated for causing financial loss to the state.
Yes.
But it all worked out.
And was acquitted.
And was acquitted.
Yes.
And was acquitted.
And he did not accept the pardon.
And he did not
because
accept
he said
the pardon.
He was not guilty. You accept a pardon when you're guilty.
When you're guilty.
Yes.
Yeah. So from that challenge, everything worked out, and what God spoke
by God's grace
was fulfilled.
Yes.
Now do stay with us here on the Natalie Fort Show. We'll talk about your role as a mother, a grandmother, and then we'll move on to fantastic from there. Stay with us on the Natalie Fort Show. You're welcome back to the Natalie Fort Show. Now that was quite a story. That was quite a story, and you went through it all. So you've been through a lot.
Only a bit of
that. I can imagine, right? I can imagine it's only a bit. You've been through a number of things in your life. What I observe is the faith in God just remaining steady, right? If you had to title this phase of your life, this phase of Esther's life, what would it be called and why?
I think throughout my life, the title I've had is It's a Big World and God Owns It. And this phase of my life in that big book would be the chapter on Revelation. I mean, how, to what extent, believing in God is one thing, having faith in Him is another. For me, people seeing the love of God through you is really important. And I pray and hope that God finds me a worthy channel to show Himself through.
Yeah.
So this, if He's not, my life is not being seen as a life being lived for God, as a chapter in my life and in my book, then
it's not worth it.
No, it's not worth it. This year at our church, our theme is fruitfulness. And it's not about material fruitfulness. It's about being able to touch lives. Yeah. And it's only God who can direct that. So
that's beautiful. So it would be the book of Revelations if you're to link it with the Bible. Now we're going to move over to fantastic now, but just I find that you have quite an interest in social issues, as you mentioned. These things are important to you. Do you ever see yourself moving to serve in some form of doesn't need to be political, but a capacity which makes you directly solve these problems for Ghana?
Oh, I'm finding ways of serving. Some of you may be aware of the Ghana Garden and Flower
yes,
movement,
very much aware.
Which we have been running for this year will be the 11th year. Climate change is a serious issue. And I believe that each and every one of us has a responsibility to work to stop it. And that's my way of helping people to adopt positive behaviors towards the environment whilst benefiting from it. That's why we say we're promoting a greener, cleaner, healthier, wealthier, more beautiful Ghana. And then, of course, as a female, I've been through different challenges, husband in prison. I mean, there are different prisons of our lives. And so I work with I work with females every now and then on a program called SHARE, where we use communication and facilitation principles to share information. What are the prisons of our lives? And
I like that. Wow.
And of course also Nurture to Bloom. That is, a lot of people don't understand why women work in a certain way when they are in the workplace. I mean, we are very particular. We multitask, and so sometimes they say we're too much, and people fail to see the benefit that women bring. And then, of course, I have Read It, Write It, Say It better for public schools. I use drama and puppetry to work with children to learn to read and to love reading. So I think that there's so many ways, in our church and other places.
These are channels.
Well, you know, everywhere you find yourself every day is a place for you
for impact. It doesn't need to be through politics and all that.
No, it's you have to benefit. If you're in the world and you're not benefiting yourself
and your
immediate surroundings, then what are you doing?
What are you doing? Esther Cobbah, thank you. It's truly been wonderful having you on your show. There's so much to learn from you. There really is so much to learn. Thank you so much for being on the Natalie Fort show. We've got Fantastic next. Do stay with us. Time for Fantastic with Esther Cobbah. Now, of course, because of your field of work, the title of the game chosen for you is Word Web. Okay. Now I'm going to mention 3 words that are related to your field, and you're expected to come up with 5 words that all start with the first letter of three words I mentioned. Okay, so say for example, the first word is communications, so C, 5 other words starting with C. And you have less than 15 seconds for each word. Okay. It'll be simple. Okay, so first word is communications.
Common, content, clear, consent, concrete.
Okay, done. Even more than 5. And you'll be simple for you. Now, second word, media.
My, mine, myself, miracle, mercy.
Okay, done. Final word, public.
People, patience, patent, Peter,
okay.
pathetic.
That was brilliant. Oh my. You've been coming up with more words. You've gotten it. You've gotten it. Under 15 seconds.
Thank you very much. I wasn't sure I'd be able to do it.
Communications is definitely your field. Esther, thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.
so much. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Pleasure having you too.
Thank you for all you've done.
Pleasure having you too. Thank you so much.
A special thank you to our sponsors who make this show possible as well. That's MTN, Absa Bank Ghana, Taft College, supported by the Club G100, Self Search, and Wella Dazzles. Do stay with us. We've got Star Woman and Proud of My Hustle next.
I'm Swapna Abraham, a singer, songwriter, world record holder, interior designer, actor, author, mentor, marketing and branding enthusiast, a mother to 2, and a grandmother to 3. That, in a nutshell, is what and who I am. Music is like the air to me. It's like the background score of my life. It is in the background all the time in my life. My best form of expression. When words fail me, music comes to my aid. It's my comfort, my solace, my empowerment, my healing. I cannot imagine a life without music. And that's what music is to me. My life's greatest achievement would not be the 4 world records or anything great that I'm known for. When my mother was bedridden the last 7 months of her life, being by her side, literally holding her hand and her head in my left and right hand, witnessing her eyes close and her spirit leave, I consider was the greatest achievement of my life, to have just been there with her through that critical time of her life. What motivates me most are my goals. Whether they're impulsive or intentional, once they're set, there's no turning back. The only thing that can stop me from attaining those goals is if I do a refresh and I realize that that's no more a goal. That's the only thing that would stop me from pursuing that goal. It's my goals. I set them and I go for them until they're checked off the list. My advice for young women in my field is things are not always going to go to plan. I suppose you know that already. But in that case, be resilient. Always stand up when you fall. If you reach a wall, learn to walk through the wall. Make good choices, both in your personal and professional life. Your choices are what's going to make you eventually. I'm about to sing for you the chorus of a song called Shout that I wrote, and that's about to be released shortly. Shout aloud, so proud and invincible. Shout a cloud in the crowd, be visible. Shout aloud, so proud and invincible. Shout a cloud in the crowd, be visible.
My name is Kofi Benjamin. This is my professional as a phone repairer. I have been in this work through like 10 years now. In this work, I've used it to achieve many things. I train people in school. I build house with it. I bought a car. I have a business. I have a shops, and I have many things. As well, I'm proud of what I'm doing, and I pray that God will surely bless me so that I can increase it in a bigger way. My name is Kofi Benjamin. I'm proud of my household.
It's been a pleasure bringing you the Natalie Fort Show this evening, and I'd want to leave you with a bit of food for thought tonight. Oftentimes when we think about acquisitions in life, we usually think about external ones, material ones, getting a fancy house, a lovely car, lots of money, and that's all well and good. But just like Esther Cobbah did, why not make your focus internal acquisitions, selflessness, love, hard work? And in so doing, those material ones will surely come. That's what I want to leave you with tonight. Thanks again for watching The Natalie Fort Show. We're on your screen same time next week on GHOne Television. A special thank you to MTN, Absa Bank Ghana, Taft College, the Club G100, Self Search, and Weller Dazzles for making this show possible. Till next week, we'll bring you more conversations that matter. Have a lovely evening.